In 2 Samuel chapter 9, verse 1, it reads this way. Now David said, is there still anyone who is left of the house of Saul, that I may show him kindness for Jonathan's sake? And there was a servant of the house of Saul, whose name was ZIBA, who, when they had called him to David, the king said to him, are you ZIBA? He said, at your service. Then the king said, is there not still someone of the house of Saul to whom I may show the kindness of God? And ZIBA said to the king, there is still a son of Jonathan who is lame in his feet. So the king said to him, where is he? And ZIBA said to the king, indeed, he is in the house of MACHIR, the son of AMMIEL, in Debar. Then King David sent and brought him out of the house of MACHIR, the son of AMMIEL, from Debar. Now when MEPHIBOSHETH, the son of Jonathan, the son of Saul, had come to David, he fell on his face, prostrated himself. Then David said, MEPHIBOSHETH, and he answered, here is your servant. So David said to him, do not fear, for I will surely show you kindness for Jonathan your father's sake, and will restore to you all the land of Saul your grandfather, and you shall eat bread at my table continuously. Then he bowed himself and said, what is your servant that you should look upon such a dead dog as I? And the king called to ZIBA, Saul's servant, and said to him, I have given to your master's son all that belonged to Saul and to all his house. You therefore and your son and your servants shall work the land for him, and you shall bring in the harvest, that your master's son may have food to eat. But MEPHIBOSHETH, your master's son, shall eat bread at my table always. Now ZIBA had 15 sons and 20 servants. Father, I served my leader, and I served him well. Now that becomes on a son for serving his leader well. Be it upon me today, in Jesus' name, amen. I want to share some things with you that are very important. You would be surprised as I go through this teaching how much you're impacted by the environment that you come from. Here we begin to talk about MEPHIBOSHETH, and as we're talking about MEPHIBOSHETH, MEPHIBOSHETH was 5 years old when the kingdom was raided, and the nurse was carrying him, and she dropped him at 5 years old. He was not damaged emotionally. Let's go down on the keys just a little bit. He was not damaged emotionally at that time, but at 5 years old, when he was dropped, he was taken in to Debar. And I'm going to talk about Debar for just a moment, because it's very important that you understand Debar, because if you don't understand Debar, you don't understand what shaped him to say to the king, why are you going to look upon me, a dead dog, as I am? He saw himself as a dead dog. This is what he rehearses back to the king. The king comes to show kindness. MEPHIBOSHETH sees himself as a dead dog. Well, something happened in his childhood at 5 years old, and he was royalty. Let me give you my title so you can better understand where I'm going. Kingdom royalty in the ghetto. Kingdom royalty in the ghetto. You have to be careful when you get around things like this that you don't have a ghetto mentality. So many people, and I'll teach you what that is. It's not just a place, it's a way of operating. And when we get around things like this, we have to receive kingdom teaching in order to shift us out of an old way of thinking. So Mephibosheth was dropped at 5 years old. They were trying to rush him to safety, and he was dropped. He winds up in Debar. And when he winds up in Debar begins to shape him. You might think that he's still young, but now at this time, he is a full-grown man because he has a son. If you read further, you will hear about the son that he has. So the danger of Mephibosheth raising a son is very bad because of the way he thinks. If he says he is a dead dog, wonder what he thinks about the son that he's raising. That's for you to just think about and ponder. So Debar is without pasture. So without pasture means no green grass, no low plants. So Debar is without pasture. It has no green grass. It is not fertile at all. It has no low plants. It is really considered the slum, is what is considered. So Debar is considered a ghetto town. Debar is considered a ghetto town. I begin to say, well, I started asking a lot of questions when I saw this, and it said, is it considered a ghetto town? What is a ghetto? It is a quarter of a city in which members of a minority group live because of social, legal, and economical pressure, or economic pressure. I'm going to read that again. It is a quarter of a city, a certain area, in which members of a minority group live because of social, legal, and economic pressure. So I want you to catch this: social, legal, economic pressure. Social, legal, economic pressure. That's what Debar was. So while Mephibosheth was in Debar, he was experiencing social, legal, economic pressure. That's what the ghetto is. So if you put a prince in that environment, he's going to think like a dog. Stay with me. This is why it's so important to teach kingdom teaching. He is the son of Jonathan. Jonathan was a prince. Saul was a king. So he is also a prince, but he's in the ghetto. He's in Debar. So he's experiencing social, legal, and economic pressure. So it begins to shift his mind and his thinking. And in his mind and his thinking, because he's experiencing this, he begins to think less of himself. You may be in a trailer park, or you may be in a low-income neighborhood. So you're constantly seeing social, put it back up there, social, legal, and economic pressure. You can't say that these won't have an impact on you, because it had an impact on him, and he was out of the palace. What if you've never been in the palace? What if you were raised in those conditions? Just a question. What if you were raised in those conditions? It is going to have a mental impact on you. It's going to have a mental impact on how you think, how you process, how you see certain things. Is going to have a mental impact. How can you say that? Because it had a mental impact on Mephibosheth. For at least 5 years, he experienced royalty. For at least 5 years. But after that, he winds up growing up in the ghetto in Debar. I took the privilege to do some research on social. Interaction that forms companionship. Interaction that forms companionship. Interaction that forms companionship. If you struggle socially, you will not interact and you will not form good companionship. So this begins to answer a lot of questions. If I am not social, then I can't build healthy relationships. Stay with me. So that tells me something has influenced or impacted me in the ghetto in Debar. I started to think how difficult it was as I was growing up to become more social. Because if I didn't become more social, there were relationships that I needed that I would never enter into. Stay with me. That's why I wanted to settle it down, because you got to process this. If you don't, you're going to raise kids that think like dead dogs or worse. So social interaction that forms companionship. You may be with people, but you don't have a real relationship with them because you're not social. So this helps us to understand why you can put a ball in a guy's hand and he goes through adolescent years into high school, just doing it, and goes to college and even entered into a professional arena, but he can't socialize well. He can't communicate well. He has a talent, but he has no social skills. So there's not a whole lot of interaction, which means if God is going to take you to this next place and it's social there, you won't be able to go because you're so, put it back up there, keep it up there, we can work this. You can't go because you can't interact so that a companionship is formed. Everything on high levels has to do with relationships. Everything is on high levels. There will be a point that you will not be able to walk with me without a relationship with me. People really believe in relationships, so they like to talk. The more you talk, the more you build companionship. You want to break down companionship? Stop talking. Stop interacting. So they had to be social. This is what Mephibosheth did not have. His social skills, because he was in Debar, were broken. Legal is catch this. It is confirming or conforming to law and established rule. Conforming to law or established rules. So he had legal problems. Does it sound like something? He had legal problems. In a ghetto, you will find a lot of legal problems. Why? Because you cannot establish rules that they will comply by. So they constantly break laws and break rules because they're in Debar. That's just how it works. Conforming to laws is not possible. So instead of being legal, it becomes illegal. Stay with me. Instead of becoming legal, it becomes illegal. So if I'm not social, I don't have proper relationships, then I do illegal things. He's having social problems, he's having legal problems, he's in the ghetto, he's in Debar. He cheats on his taxes. You know that's illegal. All those Social Security numbers. See, it's ghetto-like operation. I am never in truth because I'm really not accountable in companionship, so I do whatever. Because I don't like laws and I don't like rules, conforming to law or established rules. I have a problem with that because I was raised in Debar. Now, it doesn't change the fact of who I am. I was just raised in this environment. I knew this was going to be a tough one. I should have structured the inside service for this. I knew that the demons were going to try to stop me from speaking into that Debar mentality. I have the answer. God told me I had the answer. Now I know I got the answer. I am sure I have the answer. I am sure this is the answer. I am sure this is your struggle. I am sure you don't want to be social, and I am sure you're illegal. You're shaped by these pressure moments. Even though you're royalty, you're shaped by these pressure moments. You want to do different, but everything around you is like that. What do you do when everybody around you is stealing and lying and cheating? Go back to social. You got to change who you're running with, or don't run with anybody at all. For me, if I go into an environment and it's not right, I just won't have any friends right now. I'll keep socializing long distance till I can get around some people that really want to be legal. Y'all understand what I'm saying? Don't be so hungry for a friend that you do everything illegally. Okay, stay with me. This is good stuff. I know the intercessors are praying for me. This is good stuff. I think the breakdown of the social skills, people say, well, quiet people are humble. No, they're not. Quiet people hide a lot of stuff. People who don't talk, they got a lot to hide. I promise you. That's why I like to be around people who talk. Because people who talk, they'll tell you what's going on. People who don't talk, they got a lot to hide. They're suppressing a lot of things. Holding unforgiveness in the body of Christ is illegal. They hide a lot of things. Envying and strife that you can't see, that's illegal in the body of Christ. You have to forgive in the body of Christ. It's illegal to hold something against me and not tell me. That's illegal. Okay. All right. Don't tell me we're not illegal. So if the social skills, you ever met somebody that had something to say but didn't know how to express himself? It's because the social skills are so low. You want to know why marriages are suffering? Because the social skills are so low. Women are able to communicate better than men. You want to know why the man didn't get the position? Because he couldn't communicate it. See, you got to stay with me. I know what I'm talking about. They wanted to hire you. They looked at your resume. Resume looked good. You got to the table and you couldn't communicate what was on your resume. This is what the ghetto, this is what Debar does. It's not that we don't have the talents, not that we don't have the skill. We just don't know how to communicate. We don't have good social skills. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to start. What I'm laying out is a plan. So I'm going to grab a hold of these little boys that not at the age where they should know all social skills, but start working on their social skills and say, now communicate this to me. Communicate to me what we just said. Communicate to me what you just wrote. Communicate to me, because if I can get them to communicate, I can increase their social skills, and then I can help them to interact and form companionship. But if they learn from a daddy that thinks he's a dead dog, Stay with me. Stay with me. We have so much illegal stuff going on in our churches because no one can communicate what they really want. I sometimes, what do you want? Tell me what you want. But if you can't tell me what you want because your communication skills are low and you can't articulate to me, if you told me you wanted money, I would have given you money. If you told me you wanted my church, I would have said, no, you can't have my church. God gave me the church. But we got to be able to communicate that so people know where we stand. But Debar kills our communication skills and we're not satisfied. We want more and more, but we can't articulate what we want. So after we can't communicate it, we start doing illegal stuff, unauthorized stuff. Stay with me. This is what Debar. You have never heard it preached like this because you can't preach it like this until you have a kingdom perspective. This is a king that came to lift up a man that was a prince, and he thought like a dog. Not just a dog, a dead dog. He was stripped of all his social interaction, so he couldn't be a quality relationship. He could have sex because he had a son. See, this is what I am going to build a program around, targeting people of color. Because we have been raised with a Debar mentality. And we call wrong right and right wrong. Social interaction forms companionship. I want somebody in my life, but the way I operate always runs people away. I can't put relationships together because I was raised in Debar, and there are no quality relationships in Debar. Legal. Conforming to laws or established rules. Because there was no discipline, then what I see, I'm going to change to fit how I feel. Or I will remove it. You tell me to come at this time, I'm coming at 5 minutes after. I am not going to comply. Anyone that can't comply was raised in the ghetto, Debar. I'm not going to hang around that long because most people don't like rules. All rules do is expose that we need somebody with a kingdom perspective to come talk to us. This is good stuff. This is good stuff. I'm going to get you out of Debar. But you don't understand. There's a King of Kings and the Lord of Lords is calling you out of Debar today. Informing laws, law or established rules. Listen, if I'm within the law, I have nothing to worry about. You can pull me over if you want to. The sign said 35, I was doing 32. My license are current. My seatbelt is on. Now, what did you stop me for? And that's how I would talk. No, everything's in compliance. What did you stop me for? And I'll show him my badge. Now back off. Because I couldn't have gotten this if I wasn't doing what I was supposed to be doing. Stay with me. Stay with me. This is how the ghetto or Debar, it will jack up royalty. I just need to do a Selah right now, because I found the answer. I found the answer. And I'm going to shift this whole church where you start thinking royal and stop thinking in the ghetto. It's not that they think low of us. They think low of themselves. People don't want to hear the truth. Economics. Relating to household or its management. If you were raised in Debar, you don't know how to manage your house. If you were raised in Debar, you are not going to know how to manage your resources. Debar was all this. There were social problems, there were legal problems, and there were economic problems. They had a house, but they did not know how to manage their household. They didn't know how to relate to a household. This was all in Debar. When you look up ghetto, it takes you into all of this. I didn't know that Debar was related to the ghetto. But when I found out Debar was related to the ghetto, now it explains why MEPHIBOSHETH was thinking the way he was thinking, because he had been there since he was 5 years old. So it transformed his thinking. What he'd done at 4 was done away with. Listen to how he thought about himself. You can never get people who think like that to operate in the palace correctly until you take them through a process. It starts to explain all the encounters. So say we put $1 million in your account and you come from Debar. Say you're an artist and you really hit it big, but you came from Debar. Now, I don't know why you got to sell drugs now. You're a professional rapper. You make millions upon millions upon millions of dollars. Why you got to sell drugs now? It's Debar. It's Debar. It explains everything. You're my son now. You have nothing to worry about. Why are you tripping on women now? See, in Debar, no matter what you get, it's never enough. You have one wife, she's a good wife. Why you got to get a girlfriend? Relating to household. So if you, economically, if you get a house, it's not going to go well. If you have a Debar mentality, it's not always that we don't make enough money. It has to do with how we spend our resources. So if we were raised in Debar, no one taught us how to handle our resources. Let me take my time on this one. Let me take my time. That's why I knew the devil, he's trying everything I do, technology, everywhere I go, the devil tries to silence me because I have the truth. I have your liberation in my mouth. The devil don't want you to hear me. If he can't shut me up, he tried to shut you off. But this is the answer. Because what's going to happen today is something that's going to shift. And all these areas that I have just named are going to begin to change. You're going to get in some classes to teach you how to handle your income. Because we're coming out of Debar. It doesn't, you think if I get more money, I'll be better. No, if you get more money, you're going to waste more money. Because we've not been taught how to manage economics. If you're not taught how to manage it, then you won't keep it. You don't know how to multiply it. There's a way to multiply it, but you won't know that if you're raised in Debar. So Mephibosheth comes out of Debar with all these issues. See, this is sobering. And let me tell you how you can trigger these issues. Let me tell you how. Deprive me of opportunity. So it causes me, if you deprive me out of opportunities. Now, I have a college degree and you deprive me out of opportunity. That means I don't have enough income. So it sends me to Debar. Now I am educated, but I'm living in Debar. The environment is more powerful than your education. Hear me. The environment is more powerful than your education. If you're not consistently under kingdom teaching, the environment is more powerful than your Christian walk. So it is the environment that's destroying people. So if you force me into that environment, then that environment is going to diminish my social skills. I don't have enough, so now I am forced to operate in theft. Because I got to eat. So if a mama got to feed her children, I can't get no job. But that sugar daddy over there said he'll give me $50. See, it's all a planned trick of the enemy. And if we keep you in Debar, you will never see what God wants you to see, even though you're royalty. We have to teach you how to manage your household. We don't need to teach you how to shout. We need to teach you. We don't need to teach you how to lead worship. We need to teach you how to manage your household. We need to teach you how to complete a sentence so you can have a relationship with somebody that wants to take you to the next place. We need to teach you how to have the right posture for the elevated place that you're going to. We need to teach you how to be honest. What is honesty? What is integrity? Everybody uses the word, but everybody doesn't know what it is. It is character when nobody else is around. Who are you when nobody's around? That is integrity. Mephibosheth lost every bit of integrity. He lost his identity. He lost everything in Debar. He was a prince, but he was in Debar. That's why you have to be careful about your environment. If you have a choice, then use that choice to put yourself into an environment that's going to build you up socially. In my mind even went to, you got to start to create some smaller settings. In those smaller settings, you get a chance to speak. You need to speak. Your social skills grow in small groups. We got to be able, but the problem is we can't trust people over small groups because they try to build a church because they came from Debar. So they tried to steal those 10 or 15 people because they came out of Debar. But those people have to speak, they have to express, they have to increase their social skills. If they don't increase their social skills, they're going to miss out on companionship that they're going to need for the next place that they're going to. What are you doing, preacher? I am preparing myself socially for where I'm going. I listen to where I'm going, and I'm working on my social skills to where I'm going. I can't get there and not be able to communicate. I have to be able to communicate, or I will not be able to build companionship. So I got to work on my social skills. I know how to shout. I know how to speak and talk. I know how to preach. But do I know how to have a conversation with where I'm going? David told Mephibosheth, you're gonna eat at my table continuously. You're at the king's table, but you have a ghetto mentality. It's not that the king wouldn't let you to the table, but you got to know how to socialize when you get to the table. You can't just burp after the meal. Let me help you. I have 3 points. I may get to those on Wednesday night. Listen, you can run around the church about these elevated places, or you can increase your skill set for these elevated places. When I said I had to shift, you're thinking where I'm going. I'm going to shift inside. I have to communicate better for where I'm going. I have to have better social skills for where I'm going. And I am not working on my spirituality as much as I'm working on how I present myself. When I say shift, it's I'm powerful. I know I'm powerful. How do I communicate that power now? Do I speak in tongues the whole time I'm sitting in that conference? No, I got to be able to communicate so everybody knows what I'm saying, and everybody knows where I'm coming from, and everybody knows where I'm going. I can't not at that table. I have to increase my social skills so I can now enter into companionship with people that can open up doors for the community and other areas so that we can go to where God wants us to go. But we got to communicate, we got to create a platform where we're now working with little boys. They don't need to walk in there. No, we can't do that now. We got to be able to communicate. Yes, sir. What did you do this weekend? Well, I went out with my dad and my mom, and we enjoyed. They got to be able to communicate. We can't raise up another generation of non-social people. If we do, we're raising up another generation of ghetto mentality. They may not live in the project, but they will act just like they're in the projects. This is the answer. This is the answer. I want to tell you something. There are those of us who are of color who are coming up. We're coming up and we're thinking differently. And if we come up and we're thinking different, we need some of y'all who are coming up and thinking differently, knowing how to respect and honor and how to communicate and how to say what you mean and mean what you say. If we can start out with these young boys before they commit a crime, before they have a felony, before they're experiencing legal problems. We are preparing them for the palace, even while they're exposed to the ghetto. You got to take these young men and these young girls, and we got to do it now. During a time of pandemic, we got to start working with them. Stop your shouting long enough to communicate with your child and teach them how to present themselves so that they rise up and they walk and talk like they come from royalty. I had to train myself to be what I am right now, but they have mothers and fathers who can train them. Stop telling them to shut up. Stop calling them a fool. They are not a fool. If you want them to have time with somebody on a higher level, you give them time right now. Let them communicate their feelings. You sit there and listen and then correct their language because of where they're going. Do you not know that you have kings and queens living in your house? Just because you were raised like you were in Debar doesn't mean you have to raise your children like they're in Debar. I challenge you on today to raise those children like they're kings and priests. Rehearse the message that I'm giving you. Teach them how to manage their money. Teach them how to have good social skills. Teach them to not break the laws so they don't have to go to court. If I go to court, I'm going for a permit for what I'm about to build. This is how we do it, people of God. This is how we get that juvenile mentality that was formed in Debar. We are coming out and we're coming up and we're doing great things, and we don't care who likes it, who dislikes it. We're still coming up. We got to do something socially. We got to do something legally. We got to do something economically. We got to shift this thing. Let me tell some of you wives, your husband, all he had enough social skills to do is to date you and marry you. And you wonder, why don't you talk? His social skills ran out. Tell me how to help. His social skills ran out. When you can't communicate well, you get angry, frustrated, even go into depression because you don't know how to communicate what you feel. So many of them just shut down. There are tons of men who are shut down because they have no social skills. They cannot communicate what they feel. They cannot communicate what the pain that they feel inside. They cannot communicate the vision they have for the future. The social skills were broken in Debar. The worst thing that can happen is you get dropped and then go live in Debar, which means you get hurt and then you go live in a place that will never bring healing. Thank God that I had a place to go to where a father was, that when I got hurt, I was able to go to a place and got healing and then was able to communicate, yeah, this is where I'm hurting. Yeah, this is what happens to me. Yeah, this is how I really feel about the situation. And now I had an antidote that will help me to process through it. Let me tell you who you are. Why you got all these ghetto characteristics, why you got all these social problems, legal problems, economical problems. You are a king or a queen. Right where you are. Allow us to transform your inner man for where you're going. You're going to look the same outwardly, but you're going to be different on the inside, because we're going to unlock everything that was locked up in Debar, and we're going to sit you at the table. You may not know what to say at the table right now, but keep listening, keep watching, keep learning, so you'll know how to sit at the table with kings. I used to, when I hear about great opportunity, I used to say, I'm ready, I'm ready. And then I started finding out what ready looks like. So when I hear of opportunity, I go start reading books. I started finding material, and I started figuring out, okay, if I'm going there, this is how that operates. So I'm educating myself for where God says he wanted to take me, because my posture has got to line up. I can't have a bunch of legal issues going on, because people love to see your legal issues. Wait until you get to the top and then expose your legal issues to the world. Got to have good companionship. If Gail would not have good companionship, she would not exist. She had good companionship, so one stronger than her could lift her up. You cannot, listen to me, you cannot go to great places and not have good companionship, because you don't ever know when that person that you're in relationship with, how you're going to need them one day. You got to understand, when you go up, you better create some relationships up there, and all your relationships can't be down there, and they can't be to your right and to your left. You got to have some upstream relationship, which means you got to know how to communicate and create companionship. There are many times, and I'm about to close, there are many times I ran into people and I knew that they were my next level relationships. So I had to learn how to socialize with them. It wasn't that I was better. It was that God wanted to do something with me that I couldn't do with myself. And you got to understand this. God is ready to do something with us. And we can't let Debar keep us settled down in a place like this. No. We're not staying there. We're coming up in every single area. We will create classes to make sure that we bring out the best in you. If there's the best in you through the kingdom preaching word, that best will come out of you. Some of y'all are waiting. That man on the inside of you is waiting to explode out of you. But you got to get yourself in an environment. Learn the language. Learn the way it operates. Don't try to bring it down to your way of thinking. That is Debar. Come on up here there. It would be an awful thing for you to die with that kind of potential. To be honest with you, Mephibosheth spent a little time at the king's table. Then he went back. Check this out. In his place that God had for him, he had a servant. And the servant had 15 sons. And then he had 20 servants. So all those people were under Mephibosheth, which meant that when it was harvest time, he didn't have to lead the king's table. They went out. The word was by King David, you go out, you take your sons, you take your servants, go out and harvest everything in the land. Bring it back. He's going to stay at the table with me while y'all go out there and take care of business. You make sure he has something to eat. But he's going to be at my table. What is it that God has planned for you and you're eating crumbs? What did God have planned for you and you're barely making it, and you're trying to figure out how you're going to make ends meet when in the kingdom ends are overlapping? What have you settled for because you don't have good social skills and you were afraid to go sit at a table because you didn't know what to say? It's not for you to say anything right now. Just sit at the table. So when you go into what is considered a slum area, you preach the kingdom. When you find a people who are down, they won't tell you they think like a dead dog, but they are down. You preach the kingdom. When you have an oppressed people for hundreds of years, if you want to bring them out, you preach the kingdom. You wonder why the kingdom is being preached? Because the oppression is now visual. 2020, I told you, you'll see it this year. You're seeing this year. But don't just see the negative. See the potential of who you are. No one would oppress a people like you've been oppressed over the years if there wasn't something on the inside of you that hell was afraid of. When I walked out here, I said, oh, there's going to be a battle today. Because Debar don't want to let you go. Which means that old way of thinking don't want to let you go. Which the way you think now and the way you operate now is not God's original plan for you. When MEPHIBOSHETH was born, he was born into royalty. It was that raid that caused him to be dropped. But even when you're dropped, you can get back up. I just made up my mind, if I ever get dropped, I'm going to get back up. If there's still an invitation to the king's table, I'm going to show up. I may not know what to say the first time. I may not know what to say the second time. But by the third time, I'm going to know the language. It's time to go up. What promotions have you turned down because you felt inadequate? There is no inadequacy in a king or a queen. All we have to do is teach you how to release your potential. I am what I am. And what I went through didn't define me. It proved that I was a king. I challenge every woman that has a husband. Challenge his communication skills. See if he'll tell you what he's really feeling. Because it's time. It should have happened as a little boy, but it didn't. But it's got to happen now. Because you can't rule well if you can't communicate. You can't shut down now. I'm telling you, I've been through enough stuff. You can't shut down now. I can't shut down now. Yes, there's a pandemic. Yeah, I want to get all the people back in here, but I can't expose them to death. That's what I be doing. I can't expose them to death, but I got to keep on doing what God called me to do. You got to keep doing what God called you to do in spite of what's going on around you. You're now out of Debar, means you're out of the ghetto. Change your thinking now.